what I want to talk about is something that Karen from New Hampshire brought up a couple months ago, and it was what she called an out of balance world. And then Max, a couple of days later, said the same thing, but neither one of them talked about what it was that was out of balance. And I want to talk about a couple of things that are out of balance. And the first is trade deficits. $908 billion, $3 billion in the last year. Do you know how we pay for trade deficits? Have you ever thought about how we pay for trade deficits? I mean, it's obviously not that we sell people stuff because that would be included in trade statistics. No, we sell off financial assets. That's what we do. And I am posting on the chat right now a Bureau of Economic Analysis report that shows the difference between how much we owe abroad and how much abroad owns here. And the difference right now is 26.1 trillion. That's trillion with a T dollars in their favor. People abroad own 26 trillion, $1 trillion more of America than we own abroad.
And how much of that's China, Wickham?
I haven't looked. I don't know.
Okay.
A lot.
I just don't know. Maybe a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
But no,
And-
different point.
Yeah.
I looked at that same number 30 years ago in 1995. It was 1 trillion.
Yeah.
So over the last 30 years, we have sold off $25 trillion of this country's financial assets.
Yeah.
Now, when I grew up in Indiana, there was a little phrase that described that. It was called selling the farm to pay for the park.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what
So,
we're doing.
In Arkansas, they say selling your seed corn.
Well, yeah, we were doing that. Yeah, we're doing that too.
Yeah.
And the point I would make about that, one of the points I make about that, 9.1 trillion of the amount that the people abroad own in the United States is U.S. debt. We used to say we owe with the debt. You don't have to worry about the debt. We owe it to ourselves.
Yeah.
Well, no,
Yeah.
we don't. We owe 9 trillion of each other. So that's the first thing that's out of balance. The trade.
Do the second one quick because I want to let Kristen and Jaime respond.
Yes,
We're up
the
against
second one
clock.
is a report by the Center for Immigration Studies that's really just based on Bureau of Labor Statistics data. It says that 17.5% of the working age men, 30 to 64 in this country, 20 to 64 in this country, are not even in the workforce. And that adds up to 17 million men not even working. So simultaneously at the same time, we're selling off the country and we got millions and millions and millions of men who are not even in the workforce.
Yeah.
It looks to me like we've created an economy in which there are millions and millions of men who cannot find jobs that their fellow citizens are willing to pay for.
Yeah, Wickham, two great points, and you speak for at least millions, maybe not tens, because you're too sophisticated for some. But Kristen and Jaime, thoughts on what Wickham said?
Well, I was just gonna. I mean, you've identified the problems, and I think we probably all agree. If there's what's one solution to help either point, either off balance?
Okay, I don't have one. That's the honest answer. President Trump has tried tariffs, and people make a lot of fun about the tariffs and say they're not going to work, but nobody talks about the underlying problem, which is the men out of the workforce and the trade deficit. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I think, and then education is where a lot of people go first, right? And it not to put them to help go into trade schools and manufacture, and like to broaden the horizon and not just have I think for a long time we as a society said you have to graduate high school, go to a 4-year college, and then good luck. And I think
now we have a lot of debt.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. So diversifying that is where a lot of, I think, policymakers look to.
Yeah.
Well, Wickham, good to see you, and great name, by the way. Look, this is a refreshing conversation to have, and this is when some people start calling me a Republican, Mark, when I start having this conversation. And I feel very strongly about the China and the selling off American land, and what I saw even in New Orleans and up and down the river, and there've been a massive amount of China buying up of refineries and brownfields and all this stuff, and so I'm just so annoyed by that. Look, I mean, I think that's something we've got to, and in some ways you got to think about it state by state, and I think these governors have got to just be a little bit more judicious in the way they dole out their land and foreign direct investment. So that's one thing. And then second thing, and this is something that Mitch Landry worked on in New Orleans, and even Bobby Jindal when he was governor of Louisiana. This is something that they worked on together. And having all these people out of the workforce, Wickham, is something, and men and women, but I get your point. This is going to be a big issue for us, and this is something that we've got to wrap our heads around. And to Kristen's point, this is something that Bobby Jindal tried to do, and my dad, who's a good Democrat, was opposing this because he's an education guy. But 15 years later, we probably should invest in it. Bobby Jindal was trying to build a way for kids out of high school to get free technical and community college, get their 2-year degree, 2-year program. And so we got to do a little bit more of that. We got to partner. Our community and technical colleges in America are jewels that we don't invest enough in. And so I think to your point, we've got to do a little bit more of that, but we got to get people off the sideline because that's going to make us less competitive overall.
Yeah. Wick, I'm really grateful to you.
Can I say one more thing?
Real quick, though, we're up against the clock, but please do.
Real quick. If the 342 million people in this country, imagine they're all in four-person families. That's 85.5 million four-person families. Divide that into a $903 billion trade deficit, and you get $10,560 per family that we are living beyond our means.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah. Wickham, thank you for that. It's an important topic, and we're always happy to discuss it.
They say that something that's easy is like a walk in the park. Well, easier than a walk in the park, hit the subscribe button, be part of the two-way community, never miss an episode, be part of our conversations. Thank you for your service to America.
And don't forget, you can now listen to the Morning Meeting and Two-Way Tonight on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.